We thought this would be chin on a plate, but it turned out to be like donkey brains in a bowl. Like, goddamn, this card, man.
All right, welcome to another episode of Two Fight Fans, where we talk about all things in combat sports. I'm one fight fan, Collin.
I don't know if I'm another one, but I am Stuart.
All right, UFC 304 in Manchester, England happened this past weekend, and I'm back at the win column.
You are. But at what cost, Colin? At what cost? This was the night of 1,000 donkey brains, and I just can't. It was kind of hard. I can't fathom being a fan in the audience because apparently Patty Pimblett walked to the ring around 4:30 a.m.
Yeah.
So first off, let's just call that putting it on for the home crowd, even though the UFC was getting a site fee and is like hundreds of $1 million in the black. That's the first big donkey brain move of the night. UFC is putting this thing at an ungodly hour for the local fans.
Yeah,
And then
that was ridiculous.
Dana White gets all upset and he's like, "Oh, there were a lot of decisions. I'm never gonna up the fight night bonuses ever again because apparently they, like since UFC 300, I think almost every pay-per-view during the press conference, a fighter will say like, "Hey, UFC 300 got $300,000 rather than the $50,000 for a performance bonus. Why don't we make it 301, 302, 300, whatever?" They upped it to 100,000, and he said, "I'm never doing that again." Which I don't buy that he's doing it only because of the number of decisions here. I think he's just decided that like I don't want to have to pay them much money anymore, or I don't want this to be a running gimmick, so I'm stopping it. Another thing though, where
did he say that because he was upset with the actual like fights? Or
yeah, well, that was the excuse he gave on mic was nobody fought harder, so it's clear that giving extra money doesn't work to incentivize people fighting harder. So therefore,
that's a weird conclusion to draw, especially given like the last 3 fights that happened.
It's not even a conclusion to draw. Like, what are you talking about? It's because then technically they used to give $50,000 back in, I believe, 2012, 13, before the UFC even sold. So we're talking 10 plus years ago. Hey, inflation's a thing. That $50,000 is worth a lot less than it used to be. Are people fighting less hard now because of the inflation rate? No, it's a dumb way of him just being like, I don't have to change my big Jabba the Hutt palace for myself. So that's second thing of donkey brains. And also, of course, these people are fighting at like 2 a.m. The fights there's going to be a little bit of fuckery with the fights because you've asked people to fight like in the most absurd hour ever. Yeah. But let's get to the actual fights because that's the stuff surrounding it.
All right.
Though there's more donkey brains to be discussed surrounding the fights as well. But where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the 2 title fights? Or do you want to start kind of as we experienced it throughout the night?
You seem to have a much more.
Dude, I'm fired up. I'm angry.
Yeah. Wherever you want to start, let's get this little fire in you going. Where do you want to start?
Where did you jump in to start watching the fights?
I jumped in. I didn't get to start watching until the Pimblett fight. So I was just
so you missed quite a bit.
I did. I was just like looking at updates from ESPN and like MMA Junkie and things like that. So,
all right. Well, let me spin you a tale.
Please do so.
Your boy jumped on at the Oban Elliott Preston Parsons fight. Not a very good fight. Happy to see Oban Elliott, the Welsh gangster, get a win. Though Preston Parsons didn't quite seem to understand that you just can't shoot a double leg from like 9 feet away from your opponent. So tiny donkey brains, but it's a middling welterweight fight. We forgive it. We move on to they actually made the change. The flyweight fight between Muhammad Mokaev and Manal Kopp was supposed to be on the early prelims, and they said, actually, let's have it be the opener for the main prelim card. They walk out, and immediately run across the cage at each other, and security has to come in. There's like 50 people in the cage trying to force these two guys apart.
Oh,
Right?
really?
Yeah, they had apparently had a bunch of extra security on stage during the weigh-ins as well, because they both were like on site. This will happen on site, and all of this came about because supposedly there was no video to like show who happened, though there was a big brawl. Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Before the weigh-ins, Manal Cop claimed, though Manal Cop, if anyone has Donkey Brains on this card, Manal Cop is like number one offender. Um, he claimed that Muhammad Makayev asked for a selfie with him, and then Muhammad Makayev sucker punched him. And I
Right.
was like, well, is that exactly true? Because Manal Cop said, and I thought, well, maybe he's just like playing this up. Uh, that Muhammad Makayev asked him, "Hey, come, because you're Muslim as well as I am. Let's have like Muslim solidarity, take a selfie together, show like even though we're gonna have bad blood in the ring, that like we Muslims stand together." And then sucker punched him in the head after taking the like selfie photo, or like as he was
Mhm.
taking the selfie. Um, so I thought like, well, that sounds like suspicious. That sounds like a weird way to like try to sucker punch someone. I don't know if I buy that. Then Muhammad Makayev, after the fight, comes out and says, "Oh no, I did that exactly because nobody's allowed to bully me." And it's like, oh, you're kind of a piece of shit then. Like you're kind of a dickhead. Um, and what's more, okay, so but besides that, they come out, they have to be separated within the cage. Everyone's like, holy shit! Like, and everyone like the DC is kind of laughing on Mike because he's like, these guys are gonna fight anyway. Like, they're just gonna like separate them and then leave the cage, and then they actually will get to fight. So like, why don't we just get to that quickly? But yeah, like it was like a few minutes of like they looked like they were gonna try to rip each other's heads off, and then come out and have the most low pace, boring, nothing of a fight. Manal Cop, like we'd said in our preview, uh, definitely forgot. Oh, I need to throw punches in a fight. He just like forgot to do that. And then Muhammad Makayev was like, all I need to do is take someone down. There's no need for damage. And then in the second round or the end of the first, in the first round, Muhammad Makayev like nearly pantses Manal Cop
Oh,
on a takedown and like purposely like reaching into like his ass crack and like pulling down on the pants. So you're like just blatantly cheating, and then they didn't take a point for it, which I was like, this basically we should just have a new rule in MMA where each person gets to like choose the two fouls they want to use in the fight, and then we all like go like, okay, Muhammad Makayev has chose pants pulling and eye poking, and this other person has chose biting and groin kicks because you so rarely see a point taken that it's like, why not just cheat? Like there's no real there's there's nothing that's gonna happen to you if you don't do it, or if you do it, and if you don't do it, you're not, you know, you're giving up a golden opportunity. Uh, it's true. It's like if you're tired, let's say your opponent is like gassing you out, just kick them really hard in the balls. You're not going to get a point taken. You'll go, sorry, I'm tired. My foot slipped. Right? Even if it's the most like precision, like 12-6 kick to the balls ever, like it's going to be, they're going to go, okay, well, he gets 5 minutes, then you get to recover. Or if somebody's just like kicking your ass and getting too close, just poke them right in the eye. Right? Just like, since they don't enforce it, they basically are like legal.
Mhm.
Anyway, so it ended up being this like Muhammad Makayev cheats. They had gotten into this like fight at the beginning of the before the fight even started. Then they come out and it's just slow paced and boring and tepid. Neither one of them are throwing strikes. Neither one of them is really doing anything to press the advantage. It just ends up becoming sort of a staring match. And then at the end of the first or the beginning of the second, Manal Kop's big toe breaks, and so
Oh.
it starts pointing away like he's a hitchhiker on the side of the
Oh.
road, and he's like walking on the outer blade of his foot. And Muhammad Makayev did not seem to pick up on that because he did not try to like attack that leg specifically. He didn't try to like foot stomp on that. Like it's basically like it seemed like he didn't even notice that it happened. And that's the only thing that the commentary team were talking about. And it wasn't like something where like, well, that maybe they can see something that he can't. Like you could just look at him and be like, why is your toe suddenly jutting up like towards your face? Like that's not
Oh.
the way a big toe should be looking. Yeah, Muhammad Makayev did nothing with it. He didn't like
Hmm.
yeah. And so, and then afterwards, Muhammad Makayev gets a pretty like boring decision, in which he inflicts almost no damage. After they'd hyped this up, like they had like a lot of bad blood. Uh, Dana White in the press conference afterwards says like, "Oh yeah, we're cutting him."
Yeah,
Who
yeah,
cares
I
that he
saw
has
that.
7 wins in a row? We're cutting him. Um, which so both Manal Cap, Muhammad Makayev, massive donkey brains. The UFC, especially Dana White, routinely, if you're under 170, he does seem to just like hate little. Like he just seems frustrated by the lower weight classes.
Yeah,
There's been discussion apparently when they cut the 155-pound weight division after BJ Penn and Kyle Uno came to a uh, draw, and they cut it for 3 or 4 years before they reintroduced it with like Sean Shirk and Kenny Florian. Um, that was mostly Dana White, and Dana White saying like nobody's interested in seeing small guys fight, and that was 155.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so yeah, like, and I think all of that anger to little guys, I think he's like, well, Connor was our biggest star. Uh, um, Khabib was our big star. They were 155, so we got to. At 145, Max Holloway's still a big star. 135, we have Sean O'Malley. So I guess begrudgingly, I have to keep these divisions. So I feel like all of his anger just goes towards flyweights now. So he was happy to cut Muhammad Makayev.
yeah,
Yeah, which is kind of like it's one of those things where it's like it's kind of I find it kind of like Muhammad Makayev sounds like behind the scenes he's really difficult to work with, and like this fight did not make him a fan favorite, and he didn't
yeah,
really show me any skills that would beat any of the top 5. But I feel like if you're gonna cut him, just put him against like Brandon Moreno or Tatsuro Taira. Like put him against someone really good who's just like way out of his depth, rather than they slow rolled him for 7 fights,
mhm,
because they thought he'd get better, and then when he didn't, like kind of own that your fighter didn't turn out, and like keep him on, but like put him up against hard people. Maybe he'll make that jump rather than just cutting him.
right.
So this was donkey brains all around this fight.
So, like, this I know this was the last fight on Makayev's, like, contract. Do you think it was
Mhm.
just, like, because Dana White is known to be, like, serial emotion decision man, like, but do you think it was just, like, the combination of, like, okay, like, he's difficult to work with, he had all these antics before the fight, like, and, like, that then he put on a big stinker, so it's just like, okay, like, everything basically, like, I can now say, like, these are all reasons to point to cut you, or is it just, like, because he apparently has been, like, has had, like, multiple fights where it's been boring and people don't like him, so
Yeah, well, like we said, Muhammad Makayev is in the same vein as which is again, it's weird because he's in the same vein as who's the Bo Nickel and who else did we just watch? Mackenzie Dern, right? Who they don't have really anything else other than a submission game, and so they
mhm,
don't deal any damage on top. So it can end up being kind of boring if their fights go long because they
yeah,
just take top position, hunt for a submission, never deal any ground and pound, and so it ends up being like, well, this is not like an elite level fighter. The
right.
thing is, Mackenzie Dern is a woman, so Dana White will always be like, "Oh, she's attractive. They're uh, a good fighter." And then Bo Nickel is above 170 pounds, and so he's like big guy. He's impressive always because big. Um, yeah, I think if Makayev probably came out and got a submission really quickly against Cop, or like finished the fight, uh, then it would be a totally different story, right? He'd be like, "Look at
Mhm,
this kid. He's on a 7-fight win streak. That's the most out of anyone in the flyweight division since Demetrius Johnson." Um, he's finally evolving into like being able to finish fighters. This was a big fight. He fought at a weird time. Look how he did, right? That would be the narrative that he says. But it was a
yeah,
stinker, and it was a stinker in the classic way that it is always a stinker. But yeah, both of these I after watching the fight too, before I even knew that they were cut, I kind of thought about it like this was meant to be a title eliminator, or that there was
right.
rumor, and I was like, neither of these dudes showed anything that makes me think that they would be a threat to Pantoja or Brandon Moreno or Brandon Royval or Tatsuro Taira or if Kaya Sakura comes has a win over Manal Cop. Uh, None of these guys strike me as a top 5 ready fighter, and I
Mhm,
think actually their deficiencies would be so glaring. Like it shows that there's like an actual like a pretty deep drop off between the number 6 and number 5 guy in that
mhm,
division.
okay.
Yeah. So, but we don't have to worry about thinking about them and their place in the pecking order because it sounds like they're going to go to the PFL, and that's that. Um, yeah, still kind of weird, right? Because I don't want them to do that. Like they just keep decimating the flyweight division, and then when they need the flyweights to do stuff because they do. They're like, ah, fuck it, Steve Ursig will fight Pantoja as the headliner of a card, and everyone goes, who? And they're like, how come you don't know about this? It's like, well, you haven't done anything to
Yeah.
help. Yeah. So another big donkey brain mark against the UFC for being like, why doesn't anyone know flyweights? And then they're like, God damn it, I hate flyweights. Put them at the bottom of a card. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, you've done nothing to help. Yeah. Yeah. Just brutal. Anyway, Jake Hadley, Colin Loughran, a terrible fight. Very low skill fighters, which was upsetting. I have to say, big apologies to Bruno Brazilla and Shauna Bannon. I said that one of them was probably the worst fighter in the UFC. And they both won their fights, which means Alice Ardeline is the worst fighter in the UFC. Molly McCann as well looked bad. Looked really bad. Bruna Brazil, her whole thing was it was an open side or open stance matchup, and she's with the Fighting Nerds, so John Silva and Kai Bahalio. They credit to them. They saw, hey, you could fire a knee right up the middle into Molly McCann's stomach because it's an open side matchup, or do a roundhouse to the body, and Molly McCann probably doesn't have the defense for that. And sure enough, Molly McCann did not have the defense for that. But nor did she seem to like the first time the kick landed and it really seemed to hurt. Felt like, okay, Molly, you might not be as good in the opposite stance, but why don't you shift to the opposite stance and then like step in, right? Rather than advancing with your liver perfectly placed to get kicked, why don't you turn to the other side stance and then you can like step through as you engage and get a hold of her. And Molly just refused to try anything to close the distance other than just like kind of hopping forward in the open side matchup. And that was really bad. I felt bad for Molly. She looked in really good shape. Sounds like she had a lot of personal issues, but this really was like somebody game planned properly and somebody did not game plan at all, which was like, again, disappointing to see. Nathaniel Wood, Daniel Pineda. Nathaniel Wood. I love Nathaniel Wood. He looked like he was about 7 times in this fight. He was like 5 seconds away from finishing the fight. And then he would be like, it'd be a good idea right here. I just dropped him. I'll go into his guard. Why are you doing that? Or he would be like landing on him. And so why are you doing that? You could probably knock him out if you just like land a few more punches. So Nathaniel Wood won that fight despite his best efforts not to. Kind of what it felt like, because every time he would go to the ground or engage in a part of the fight, which was mostly striking that he wasn't as good at, it gave Daniel Pineda a chance to recover, and Daniel Pineda like would reverse him or get into a more advantageous position. And you're like, what are you doing? Like I don't understand. Just horrible brain thinking from Nathaniel Wood. So I love Nathaniel Wood, but I gotta stomp him with the stamp of Donkey Brains. Bad. Then Arnold Allen, Giga Chikadze. Did you rewatch this fight?
No, I didn't either. I didn't have time to watch this
Dude,
one.
Was
it really that bad?
So Arnold Allen won. Okay, 2 things. One, his game plan seemed to be the very thing we said you can't do against Giga Chikadze. What if I circle on the outside at kicking range and then try to lunge in with a jab and like time it to counter his kicks? And it's like when he won the 3rd round, which was his most dominant round, it was when he had gotten a little tired and a little hurt, and he was like, I just have to walk forward and into this guy and like get it into like the pocket and exchange in boxing range. And that's when he started taking over the fight. And so I was like, what the fuck was your game plan for the 1st round? So he's circling and Giga Chikadze is circling around the outside of the cage, and Arnold Allen is circling on the inside of the cage. They must have run like 100 laps in the 1st round because Arnold Allen refused to cut the cage at all. It was baffling. And they're like, well, if he cuts the cage, he opens himself up for a kick. And it's like, not if he cuts the cage properly. If you cut the cage properly, you cut him off, and maybe he can eat 1 kick, but then he's right there at a better angle to punch Giga Chikadze. And he just didn't do it. He just kept circling, eating kick after kick after kick after kick. He would like check them or block them with his arms, but you're still eating shin to arm. Like your arms are going to get hurt. They're going to get tired, right?
Yeah.
Like your punches won't have as much sting. And then he goes back after the 1st round and I blame Faraz Sahabi, because Faraz Sahabi is like, you definitely won that round. Keep going. Just keep circling with him. Remember, don't get too anxious and get on the inside too quickly. And then after the 2nd round, Frost says you're up 2 rounds, but let's treat it like it's 1-1. When Giga Chikadze clearly won the first round, and he asked
Wow.
him to do the same thing, and then Arnold Allen like pushes into him a little bit more and wins. And then as they're reading 29-28 across the board, because it was clear Giga Chikadze won the first round, Arnold Allen like kind of like goes like, oh, what? Like he like tilts his head like a dog seeing something new and being like, what the fuck is that? How did I lose a round? And I was like, dude, Faraz Sahabi is giving you bad advice. That was a bad game plan.
That's really surprising to hear that Faraz Sahabi gave him like such like bad advice and bad like understanding, in the fight.
Hey, dude,
Because
I think besides George St. Pierre, it's kind of like John Kavanagh with Conor McGregor. It feels like they John Kavanagh, Conor McGregor, Faraz Sahabi, George St. Pierre are always very in sync and are very good about like game planning and knowing exactly what they want to do, and it usually is a good game plan. But like with everyone else, it seems like Faraz Sahabi treats them like they are George St. Pierre, and you're like, your fighter can't do what George St. Pierre does. You
right.
can't ask them to like fight on the outside and flick out like a jab when you're fighting this devastating, wicked fast kicker, and that's what he was doing. And it was baffling to me. Arnold Allen still won. He's still very good, right? It was clear he was the more skilled, more athletic, more durable fighter, and that's what led to it. But it easily could have gone the other way. If he had just stuck to that advice, I thought it was a terrible game plan.
Hmm.
So for Asahabi, big donkey brains on him. Get out the stamp. It was frustrating to see. I was screaming at the television. I told you, like, if Giga Chikadze wins, I'll be so upset. Especially if Arnold Allen comes out and tries to fight it like a long range kickboxing match.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did for the first round. And it was baffling because Giga Chikadze, I've never seen so many like revolutions of the cage. Like how many times they like fully encircled the cage as in this fight. It was crazy. Arnold Allen did not cut the cage for a second, and Giga Chikadze was happy to just like circle like a fourth of the way around the cage, stop, throw a kick, circle, stop, throw a kick. So yeah, it was easily over a dozen times they just circled the cage in the first round. It was not good.
Hmm.
And I think that's going to be the thing that like holds back. It was kind of like when Arnold Allen fought Max Holloway. They told him like be really cautious, really cautious. And then in the fifth round, when he was down 4 rounds, they said like you got to put pressure on Max. You have to put pressure on him. And then he comes out and immediately puts pressure on him and wins the fifth round against Max Holloway. And it was like, didn't you watch the two Alexander Volkanovski fights? You have to pressure Max. That's how you win against Max. So why was your game plan from the beginning not to do that? And then in the fifth round, as a desperation move, you do it,
Hmm.
and then you win the round. Like it doesn't. Again, same with like the Mosar Evloev fight. Even though I thought he won it, they were telling him he was winning every round against Mosar Evloev, even though he was down 2 rounds after the first two. So it's like they don't seem to have a good ringside eye for like who's actually winning the round, and it doesn't strike me as a some people, if you tell them you're down a round, that'll like deflate their fighter. It doesn't seem like they're doing it in like a strategic way either.
Hmm.
That was again bad, 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 bad. Come on, Ross, you can't do that. You almost let Giga Chikadze win. You can't do that. Gregory Rodriguez, Christian Leroy Duncan, a fun fight. Gregory Rodriguez did his Kirkland Costa impression and just walked forward and kind of beat the brakes off Christian Leroy Duncan. Yeah, a good fight overall. 30-27s across the board. No complaints. Loved it. Looked like a middleweight fight. And so no need to label anyone with donkey brains here. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. And it was upsetting because I think if the crowd had been more awake, because this is like now like 3:30 a.m. That this fight is taking place, I think this would have been a fight where there were a ton of cheers because they were like smashing each other. They both got cut and were bleeding. People got rocked back and forth. So a pretty engaging fight, but the crowd was pretty silent the entire time.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. These are the 3 fights you watched, and we got to talk about. We got to talk about this. It turns out.
Yeah.
In the step 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I said step 3 on
Question
Patty's
mark?
list is question mark of how he's meant to get Bobby Green to the ground and avoid getting hit. And it turns out Step 3 was just let Bobby Green have the world's biggest donkey brains and shoot. And then after his shot fails, push forward to try to continue so that he leaps fully into a choke. And then as the choke is being put on, rather than circling to his left, which would be the right way to escape that triangle choke, he goes, aha, here's my mastermind thinking. I'm going to circle right and tighten it up. That'll show Paddy Pimblett. Ah, I, 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 uh, you go ahead and gloat, but like, can we both admit I don't feel like Paddy won this fight. I think Bobby Green, I'm not calling him king. That was not king shit I saw. Like, he King Green, in the way that, like, Ihor Potieria leapt into Anthony Smith's arms and went, "Please choke me," that's what this looked like to me. Didn't it? Like, did you see something where you're like, "Wow, Paddy really figured it out and got his number?" Or did this look like King Green got bored and went, "I'm gonna shoot on Paddy Pimblett"?
So a few things with that. One, I think okay, Paddy looked a little bit better than he has been. Didn't look great. I'm not saying I'm on the Paddy Pimblett hype train fan wagon again. Okay,
Now,
I'm
did he look
saying.
better or did he just look buffer?
I mean, yeah, he's like more in shape, and he had like because he was like catching Green a little bit with those hook strikes that we talked about as well. And I think this pointed out a lot more, just like you said, of King Green just random donkey brain moments. And I agree with you. When I first saw this fight, I was like, what the hell is this? Why did you just dive straight into like this takedown here? But I saw on Instagram, I think it's on Paddy Pimblett's his page, but basically like it's from his corner, I think. As Green is going in, Paddy Pimblett throws the inside leg kick that actually like kicks his leg out from underneath him. So it's almost
Yeah.
like he has to dive in then. So,
Why?
well, because he was like it looked like he was being kicked it away. Like he had so much momentum coming forward that it just took his legs out from underneath him, and he was like falling in. So like to try to grab on, like his lizard brain just like took over.
Yeah, I
And
guess his lizard brain did, but here's the thing. In looking at that clip, I have it right now.
okay,
He,
good,
his
good.
his leg gets kicked out. He drops to a knee, right? It's not like his momentum is pushing him forward. The leg gets kicked out, so he drops like his standing leg. He kind of drops to a knee and then stands up, like regains his posture, and then shoots.
Mhm.
Like Patty wasn't following up. Patty just stood there looking at what was happening. So it had to have been King Greed panicking in that moment. But why is he panicking against Patty Pimblett? Why?
I don't know.
He was
Maybe he
fine.
felt something that we didn't. Maybe those hooks
No,
are that strong, man. Maybe Patty really is that buff now.
I okay, 6. Patty landed 8 strikes in this whole fight. 6 of them were kicks to the leg. I don't think those 2 hooks were the things that scared King Green away. I like I I can't find an explanation.
No,
It
yeah,
doesn't make sense to me.
yeah. I mean, I'm right with you. Like, I don't know why he did it. I don't know why he thought that was the move to do right there. But like credit where credit's due. Patty Pimblett seized upon the opportunity and he got it. So
Yeah.
I
No.
can't.
No, and it was a good show. And that was the credit that I gave Patty, which he's huge, which I have to say, he looked massive against Green in this fight.
Yeah, he looked real big.
He looked gigantic. I was like, "Holy shit, that's a big lightweight." He's huge. His back taking is good, and he's a good submission grappler, right? He can
Yeah.
get good subs. So what the fuck was King Green being like all and then again, right, you watch, he drops to that knee, gets up, King Green shoots in, and Patty is turning to shuck him off, and King Green like loses the position, and then he doubles down and continues to press forward and almost like leaps off his feet to try to get that double leg, right?
Yeah.
It's not one continuous. It's not the initial shot that actually leads to the takedown. King Green had to shoot. He's getting shucked off, and he goes, "No, I have to get this." Right? Rather than going, "Oh, thank God, I had a momentary lapse of like actual brain consciousness. I need to like back away and try to engage in a stand-up fight." He goes, "Nah, I have to double down on this." And then, yeah. And now his arm's all busted, right? You saw that as Green was falling asleep, Patty like wrenches his arm as an
Yeah.
arm bar, and his arm popped. And so
Oh,
you're
I
like,
didn't see it up,
"Oh
so
yeah, it is pretty grisly." And it's like, Jesus, dude, like what were you thinking, man? Um, it was uh, endlessly frustrating to watch that. Because again, I guess like that was the thing is in kind of in this fight and the next fight, the winner, I came away being like, I don't know anymore, and I have not even like a modicum of like better understanding of their skill level and how they win fights, uh, other than like what we've already seen, which relies usually on like in Patty's case, people being donkey brained or really bad, or in Aspinall's case, like really slow. And I was just like, this is crazy. I can't believe. Anyway, so I was salty about that, but mostly because yeah, it just was super weird, right? It would be like if I know the Damian Maya Anderson Silva fight was a
oh
snooze
yeah.
fest, but like Damian Maya deciding like I'm just gonna stand up with Anderson Silva, and you're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Um, what like just an all-time terrible decision in a fight, and you go like, why do you, or like when you watched Cody Garbrandt when he went on that run of like 4 knockouts in a row, and it would be because he would throw was it right hooks
Yep.
with no setup, and he'd throw them like 3 or 4 in a row. He'd go like 1, a 2, a 3, and so somebody would time it and just knock him out every single time. Um, yeah, that's what it felt like watching this. It's like, dude, that's not enjoyable.
Mhm.
Um, what? So what do we do with Patty now?
I mean, you kind of have to give him something more now. That what like where can we put him up in the? Because
Charles
he's now.
Oliveira.
Oh my god. I mean,
Let's do it.
yeah,
Let's see it.
yeah.
He's a top 15. Get in there. Um, like in looking at the top 15 in this weight class, is there anyone that you think in the top 15? I mean, I was convinced he couldn't beat Bobby Green. So now all of my picks are just gonna have to be about who's got donkey brains in this division. Because I think Patty has like an AoE effect around him where he just infuses people with donkey brains. Like he's like a sorcerer, and he's just like, "You want to shoot on me, right?" And you're like, "Why? Why are they shooting on you?" Because yeah, number 14 is Rafael dos Anjos. Even old Rafael dos Anjos, I feel like, beats the brakes off Patty. Uh,
Yeah, but he's a lot older now too, so
yeah,
that
but
that
I mean,
could be.
I think he still does it. Jalen Turner. Now here's the issue. Jalen Turner, we saw knock out Hanata Moicano, then get donkey brains, get taken down and choked out. So
Yeah.
you know what? And then add the AOE debuff of extra donkey brains from Patty Pimblett. I think he's got Jalen Turner. Then it's got to be. Benoit Santini, I take to beat him. Dan Hooker, Hanato Moicano, Max Holloway, Rafael Fiziev, Benil Dariush, Michael Chandler, like all of these guys. But again, I think I texted you, like, have him fight Dustin Poirier, and Dustin Poirier might shoot on him and get choked. It might just be something where, like, people get in front of Patty, they see how big he is, and they're like, ooh, I don't like that. I'll shoot on him. I don't get it. Don't get it.
Yeah.
He called out Hanata Moicano, but Hanata Moicano is supposed to fight Benoit Saint Denis. Um, so maybe he'll just get the winner of that one. Or if they had to give him someone else in the top 15, who would you give him?
Jeez. I don't know who has fights right now. Like
Armister,
actually,
yeah, Charles Oliveira does it. Justin Gaethje doesn't. Dustin Poirier doesn't.
yeah, I think they're
Benil,
too high for him. Even
Benil
if they yeah.
yeah, Benil Dariush doesn't. So it could be Benil.
Okay.
Rafael Fiziev doesn't. Could be Rafael Fiziev. Dan Hooker has a fight. Jalen Turner doesn't have a fight, and Rafael dos Anjos don't have a fight.
Okay. Uh, yeah, I'd say if we really wanted to, like, all right, now you're in the top 15, you gotta like prove yourself further,
Mm.
and like someone who has to like stop themselves from sliding back. So who would be? I mean, Jalen Turner would be good in that regards.
I actually like the Rafael dos Anjos fight, right? Like he doesn't usually like cutting down to lightweight this late in his career. He's got 1,000 miles on his body. But he just went 3 rounds with Mateusz Gamrot and held up pretty well. He's got veteran savvy, so like he's not Rafael dos Anjos, if anything, is not going to make a donkey brain decision. He has been in there enough to not make dumb choices. And it would force Patty to like show, hey, I can beat people that have like all around skill and um and Rafael dos Anjos never got that Conor McGregor fight. So maybe have Patty and dos Anjos headline like a fight night card in England,
mm,
or a fight night card somewhere, and let RDA get the little like last minute shine of fighting that up and comer, kind of like brash fighter. That's what I'd say. And then if he beats RDA, like then credit to Patty. I will fully admit that he's a very good fighter. If he beats RDA, I haven't again gassing out and barely being able to get pie. He couldn't even finish. Like, I mean, the most washed Tony. I go back and watch that Tony Ferguson fight in full. It is. We should actually do that. Like, watch Tony Ferguson's fight against RDA and then his fight against Paddy Pimblett back to back, because it's insane the
mm.
difference between them. It's like seeing Ronnie Coleman now that he has no knees or hips and he can barely walk compared to when he was like Mr. Olympia. Like it's just night and day. Yeah, I think RDA. But you think Jalen
RDA.
Turner? You want to get someone even bigger than Patty to go in there and knock him out.
I was saying either Jalen Turner or maybe in Rafael Fiziev or as high as Benelli
Ooh,
Dariush.
wow. So you hate Patty? You hate him more than I do.
Well, no, I just like look, the lightweight division is so stacked that no matter who you put him up against, it's gonna be like, cause look, you go up one, like someone who's quote unquote one number higher ranked than you in Rafael dos Anjos, okay, like but then you this may also turn into, hey, you're beating up an old man here,
Yeah,
so like if he wins that, like okay,
but
now
that's
you've
what
got
he does,
all
right?
these other what's that?
But that's what Patty does, right? Bobby
I,
Green is 37.
yeah,
Yeah, old
but
man.
you know like breaking into the top tiers of this division, like
Hmm.
you got to face someone like that eventually. So like,
Yeah,
and he's riding what now, a 5 fight win streak in the UFC. He's undefeated in the UFC. So like
yeah.
on paper, it should be, yeah, you should be challenging someone higher up. But like this division is just so stacked that like no matter who you put him up against, it's not a good sight right now. But that is what we thought about against King Green too, and
I know. I still can't believe it. Now, Josh Emmett has apparently been thinking about moving up to 155. What do you think about Josh Emmett versus Patty Pimblett?
hmm, how
Because
big is Josh Emmett?
he's pretty short, but I mean he's built like a fire hydrant that came to
That's
life.
true. Yeah, he is also pretty big.
Yeah, and he's got knockout power. He made like Bryce Mitchell seize in the cage when he got punched.
Right.
So that could be like to see if like Patty actually has any defense. Um, I don't. I'm in shock. I can't believe like it so perfectly aligns with that dumb fucking like bit we were doing about like step 3 question mark, step 4 become rich,
Yeah.
and it was like step 3 was have your opponent give you the fight on a silver platter.
Yeah.
We
Eh,
thought this would be chin on a plate, but it turned out to be like donkey brains in a bowl. Like goddamn, this card, man.
look,
Ugh,
it happens a lot more in fighting than we think,
ugh. Yeah, but it shouldn't be at this level. Like
It shouldn't
I'm
be, but
I'm fine at heavyweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, but in the top 15 or top 10 of the lightweight or featherweight division, this can't be happening, man. This can't be happening. It doesn't make sense. It's trying to kick a field goal from 60 yards away. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, ugh, yeah, terrible. Terrible. I hated it. It hurt me. Patty seized on it though, right? And Patty, that was he cinched up that submission. I will say, like it was beautiful submission. He went for it. He had good instincts to get it right. Excellent fighters force mistakes. Good fighters capitalize on mistakes, right? Patty is I gotta say it. He's a good fighter. He capitalized on the mistake. But also, King Green, in going for that, if you've ever learned triangle choke defense, he should have been circling to the right, but he went to the left. Right, he went into the choke, so he just like kept cinching it tighter on himself. And I
Yeah.
was like, why are you doing that? Yeah, just a spectacular shitting of the bed from King Green. Which means you don't get the name King anymore. You get demoted to like Baron Green, right? Like, ugh, just bad. All right. Well, that's that one. But that was again a big donkey brains from King Green.
Yeah.
And look, props to Patty. He is immune to his own AoE effect of donkey brains. He didn't like try to shuck King Green off and then go, let's stand and trade. He went, oh, I'll take this, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good for him. Good for him, man. And he got $200,000 because Dana White was so upset with like the lack of stoppages that rather than give it to Mick Parkin or Modestas Bukauskas, who also got a finish, he just decided to give $200,000 to Patty Pimblett. So good for Patty, I guess. But golly, dude, King Green, I don't even know what to do with King Green. I feel like we need to punish him. I feel like he has to fight Islam Makhachev again or some shit. You know, I mean, and this is the thing too. King Green had not been submitted in 15 years. When was the
That
last
long?
time? The last time he had been submitted was, or had he never been submitted? No, he had been submitted in 2009. That was his last submission loss. Isn't that crazy? Like,
Yeah.
he fought Jim Miller, a really good submission specialist. Didn't get submitted. He fought Tony Ferguson, actually submitted him. He fought Islam Makhachev, didn't get submitted. Thiago Moises didn't get submitted. Francisco Trinaldo, who is more of a decision machine, but didn't get submitted. Like he's fighting people that should have submission victories over him, and he didn't get submitted. And then Patty Pimblett. I just anyway. Talk to me about Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades. What are your feelings on it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? How do you feel?
I mean, it pretty much went the way I thought it was, and it just happened faster than it did, you know. And I don't know, like, do you think that they should have given it a little bit more time? Like, some people thought it was a little premature on the stoppage, but I don't know. It seemed like Curtis Blades just got like wailed on by multiple just slamming punches, and that's the other thing. Tom Aspinall is so much faster than pretty much everyone in the heavyweight division, you know.
Yeah.
And like it was nice to get that confirmation to see him like actually like use that kind of speed and that like huge advantage over Curtis Blades. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like it was, I don't know what's good if he matches up against John Jones, like because we like you said, we haven't seen this fight also didn't show us what will happen if Tom Aspinall is put in any danger, really, you know, whether it's
no fight has shown us that.
Yeah. And the big thing with John Jones is, you know, has always been his grappling, his ability to kind of, you know, neutralize any other advantages and dictate where the fight goes, whether it's just with like strong grappling or like against the fence, like pulling them down and then working positions that way, you know? Yeah. And I don't know if John Jones will have the full strength to do that against Tom Aspinall, or like we'll be able to match the speed of him, because it's different, you know?
Yeah, it's so wait, rephrase your question to me and make sure I understand exactly what you're asking me.
Well, it's kind of like you were saying, like you before this fight, you didn't know where, like what would happen if Tom Aspinall was put in a position where basically he's not throwing strikes with a speed advantage, you know, like if he has to be on his back, and you know, he is a jiu-jitsu black belt, like we haven't really seen him use his grappling. So like if he's put on his back, what is he
Mhm.
gonna do? What kind of, does he have a strong top game? If he is able to
Mhm.
reverse, what is he gonna do with this?
Yeah.
And no
Yeah.
one has been able to do that yet. So we
Yeah.
don't know what will happen if John Jones does. Like maybe if John Jones takes him down like he always does, now we actually see the true Tom Aspinall, who is like a jujitsu ace and like
Yeah. Well, so okay, that's man, there's so many one thing I will say that like I definitely got wrong in my analysis, and Luke Thomas actually brought up on his channel, which was if you look at the Curtis Blades fight against Sergey Pavlovich,
uh,
Curtis Blades, and actually in this fight, Curtis Blades lands cleanly. He landed cleanly, like a clean 1-2 right on the chin to Sergey Pavlovich, to Tom Aspinall. When he fought Derek Lewis, he was landing cleanly for 3 rounds before he got knocked out. The fact that he's a heavyweight who lands clean on these guys and they don't get wobbled or don't get knocked out, but it seems compared to other heavyweights in kind of the top 10 of the division, he does not hit as hard,
right.
right? He's finding these guys' chins, and it does not matter. He landed more punch, besides, I mean, that huge flurry at the end, just the stand up strikes. He landed like 7 or 8 more strikes that landed cleanly against Tom Aspinall in this fight. And
Hmm.
it just didn't like it didn't deter Tom Aspinall at all. And so I feel like Curtis Blades just doesn't quite have the power to be able to like the elite guys seem to be able to just kind of eat whatever he throws and walk through them, right? He
Yeah.
did knock out Jailton Almeida, but that was ground strikes. When he knocked out Overeem, that was ground strikes. He did knock out a faded Junior Dos Santos, but his chin had kind of gone. So I feel like there's not only was there that like 70x speed advantage that Tom Aspinall had, but I also think like even though Curtis Blades' technique was better, it felt almost like sparring, like when you're sparring lightly and someone catches you perfectly, and you're like, if that was full power, I'd probably be knocked out. But since it's not, I'm not knocked out. So I can just pretend it doesn't do anything. Uh, Curtis Blades kind of has that like sparring power,
Yeah.
which is terrible. But yeah, back to your point. Let me read you the times of every Tom Aspinall win really quick.
Okay.
All of these are going to be first round: 15-second, 49-second, 9-second, 1 minute and 5 seconds, minute 16, minute 21, 56 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute 35, a minute and 9, 3 minutes and 45 seconds, a minute 13, a minute 9, 1 minute.
Yeah.
He's not even someone that we are like, oh, what happens in the second or third round? Fuck, we don't know what happens in minute like 4 most of the time. His 2 losses, I'm not going to count the Curtis Blades one because we're going to say probably an injury, right? But his 2 ones
Yeah.
really early on in his fighting career. Round 2 at minute 3:59, submission heel hook. And then, this was an illegal downward elbow, so someone got DQ'd, but it was at minute 2, 3:33. Probably that person is on top of him if it's an illegal downward elbow.
Right.
Um, so his two losses are second round. He does have that wicked speed advantage, and he hits hard. Not Sergey Pavlovich, Francis Ngannou hard. Here's the thing: John Jones. The 2 things that actually make John Jones. I mean, he's a very skilled fighter, but I think the 2 things that people kind of discredit for why he won so much and was the most dominant light heavyweight that's ever been. The dude has got one of the stupidest chins I've ever seen in my life. Right? Like, legitimately, he ate full head kicks, like full power punches from Alexander Gustafsson, 8 head kicks and perfectly timed straight punches from Lyoto Machida. He's never been wobbled. He's never been dropped. Uh, John Jones is like I've ever seen. It is
Mhm.
insane. He also has 5-round cardio as a light heavyweight,
Yeah.
right? Which is super rare. I don't know if he still has that
I was
as
gonna
as a
yeah.
as a heavyweight, but here's the thing. Tom Aspinall comes out, he's going to be faster than John, but John has good defense, and John might be able to eat these punches in ways that the people Tom Aspinall has been fighting simply can't. Because John Jones, I, I I've seen John Jones eat full power shots from Daniel Cormier, Alexander Gustafsson, Vitor Belfort, Lyoto Machida. Like he eats these things like they're nothing.
Yeah.
Um, I, what's really frustrating is like Tom Aspinall is phenomenal. We still don't know a lot about him, and I think he kind of just has, and I think he always will just kind of rely on the cheat code of being this giant man who's wicked fast, in the same way that Alex Pereira kind of relies on the cheat code of having like a devastating left hook and leg kick, right? But not much else, right?
Mhm.
Alex Alex Pereira doesn't have good defense. He doesn't really have much else to his game. Uh, and we really like that. It's kind of fun to watch. I'm not having as much fun watching Tom Aspinall though, because I'm like, this is so much cheating. Like he's just so much faster. He
Yeah,
just it just and it's like not fair. I'm just like, it's just not fair. Um,
I love it.
yeah, I know. I'm searching inside myself why I'm okay with it with Alex Pereira and not Tom Aspinall, right? Because they essentially are of this same ilk, where it's like it's actually not skill that's taken there. It was the same reason why I really struggled with Francis Ngannou for a long time, because I was like, he doesn't have any skill. These punches are flailing and terrible. But anytime he touched people, they would just go to sleep. And I was like, well, that's cheating. Like you didn't even learn to like punch correctly, and you're able to like murder anyone that you touch. This is crazy. Um, the thing with Tom Aspinall though is like John Jones and Francis Ngannou are the only two fights for him to take. And then
Yeah,
after that, is he going to fight Sergey Pavlovich, Curtis Blades, Alexander Volkov again? Like, who is there at heavyweight to? There's no one who even remotely can come close to this cheat code, right? I thought Curtis Blades would, because I think Curtis Blades, like technically and like the mechanics of his punches, is one of the best punchers. But it turns out, he statted up his mechanics, but can't knock anyone out to save his life. So like, it's frustrating because I don't think Tom Aspinall is going to be able to fight John Jones, but that would be the fight, right? He's going to be someone who's probably going to be able to drag this fight into 3 or 4 rounds. And even if he
yeah,
doesn't, if he knocks out John Jones, it's the same thing as like seeing Max Holloway dropped for the first time. John Jones has never been dropped. He's never even been wobbled. Like, to
right.
see that would be kind of crazy. I'd be like, holy shit. Um, so seeing Tom Aspinall fight John Jones, I feel like we have to get $1 million and tell him to go back to firefighting and just like leave it be. Or if they can get Francis Ngannou, I know everyone, like, the UFC will never co-promote, but that's because the UFC is just being a piece of shit. Give us the fans Francis Ngannou versus Tom Aspinall, because again, what is Tom Aspinall like when he actually has to fight someone who hits really hard and has like the ability to hit him, right?
Yeah,
We learned Sergey Pavlovich just kind of waddles around the cage and can't catch anyone. So like, yeah, I guess the other one would be Poetan,
yeah,
right? But I guess the thing with Poetan is like, I think the cheat code for the speed, and knowing that Poetan has not the best chin for light heavyweight and has zero defense to speak of, like, I don't see how Aspinall just doesn't dive in and immediately blast him out of there.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's one of these weird things where like it's now entered this like, I guess we can keep watching him fight for 15 seconds every time he fights, but like I almost am like, well, he's so far ahead, and it doesn't have to do with skill or like look at all these amazing things he's doing. It's just because he's so fast. I'm like almost kind of bored of watching Tom Aspinall. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? It's
I
weird.
mean, it is, but it also it's to me, it's like I do see like speed and hand technique is a skill that most people won't be able, like, you can train as hard as you want, and you may never be as fast as Tom Aspinall, you know? So, like, on the one
Yeah,
hand, yes, that is, like, inherent ability and talent, but he also had to cultivate that at the higher level, and I think this is just the heavyweight division's always been kind of, like, weak, you know, like, or,
yeah,
like, very top heavy, you know? At the top
yeah.
part of the bracket, you've got a few people, but then everyone else, like, not so much, so
Hmm.
we kinda knew that this was gonna happen, you know? If Curtis Blades beat Tom Aspinall, we would be asking the same questions. It's like, okay, who's he fight now? You know, like, because the gap between everyone is so large, and like really the only logical opponent for either one of them if they won would be either John Jones or Alex Pereira. Because like,
Yeah,
you know, what else? Who else is gonna really like one challenge them, but two also like matches up with them? Because like you said, like everyone's already kind of fought each other at this, you know, in this division, especially in the top five here. So
yeah.
um I mean, yeah, that's kind of just where we're at now, just with the timing of everything. Does that detract from Tom Aspinall's accomplishment? I don't think so, but also
No.
it is also one of those things where we talk about like legacy down the line. Like, okay, if we're still watching in 5 or 10 years, like, will this be one of those times where we say, like, okay, yes, he was champion, but the division was really weak, So,
Yeah.
like,
Which
if
I
it,
mean
it
is kind of the same with I guess is like a thing that confuses me is like it's the same thing with Alex Pereira. Like the light heavyweight
yeah,
division
yeah,
is super weak
exactly,
right now.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I guess there's there's just a little bit more intrigue with Alex Pereira. Uh because we have seen him get knocked out. We have seen him be hurt. We have seen these huge glaring deficiencies in his game and know that it's like it's not too difficult to get to there, like those deficiencies. Whereas with Tom, it's just he's just so fast. Like
right,
nobody can catch him.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't. I do wonder what'll happen, like as Tom, because eventually he will lose this speed, right? It'll be in
yeah,
the way that like Roy Jones, as soon as his athleticism started to wane, just dropped off a cliff. Like I wonder if that'll be the same thing with Tom Aspinall,
yeah,
um, or if like Andrei Arlovsky, he'll be able to kind of like use this, be insulated by his athleticism now to work on skills, so that even as he loses his speed or people catch up, he will uh, like pull something out or be like, I have this in my back pocket.
right,
Uh, yeah, I don't know, but it's got to be John Jones or Alex Pereira, like because like the next it would be I guess Cyril Gahn is up there, but Cyril Gahn is going to rematch. Oh, that's another thing that they're doing. Here's another Donkey Brains. The UFC rematching Marcin Tybura and Sergey Spivak as a headliner. We already watched that fight. It was a garbage fight. Why are we doing it again? And then Volkov versus Cyril Gahn. Already a garbage fight that was one-sided. Why are we
yeah,
doing that again? I guess Cyril Gahn is the only person I can think of that he destroyed Volkov. He destroyed Curtis Blades now. He beat Pavlovich. It's got to be Cyril Gahn, but I like Cyril Gahn. It has zero, like it's as if you take Cyril Gahn down, he just implodes like instantly. Like you don't actually need to submit him; he'll just submit himself. Um, so I don't see how Tom Aspinall won't be able to just like dart in, grab his hips, and throw him to the ground.
mhm,
It's a bummer because it's just there are 2 or 3 intriguing matchups, but 2 of them at least. One of them is Francis, and the UFC is not going to co-promote, and then the other one's John, and John has no interest in fighting Tom Aspinall. So it's like, I guess we have to get somebody who was once at middleweight to go up and fight this 6'5", 265-pound behemoth.
yeah,
Right? Which again, like, is it going to be something where like in 45 seconds Tom Aspinall darts in with a 1-2 and perfectly catches Alex Pereira, who leaves his chin out there constantly, and then we go, whoop, that's that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I always have a hard time with heavyweight, getting excited even when we get like a big heavyweight.
mhm,
That's why it was so fun seeing Daniel Cormier go up there, because you were like, wow, look at all this skill and talent that he has, and like see him like actually like bring it to bear. Um, yeah. So that was my thought on that fight. I know everyone's really high on him, but like I couldn't get excited. It was kind of like, ugh, well, this is a bummer. Um,
mhm,
as for like an early stoppage, I don't know. Curtis Blades didn't like refute it. He didn't go like, "Oh, this is bullshit." But yeah, he wasn't. The surprising thing was like Curtis Blades was eating like those like 10 strikes, which were super fast. That ground and pound was insanely fast.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
he ate those 10 strikes without any like protection. Like he just ate them in the side of the head, and he didn't get knocked out. So I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Like maybe Tom Aspinall is like really fast, but like like when he knocked down Curtis Blades, like it wasn't like eyes rolling in the back of the head. It looked like it just kind of like stunned him, and he was like, "Whoa."
yeah.
So I do wonder like about the legitimate power of Aspinall, or if it is just like he's really fast and he times it really well, and so it can like just a really flash spark, and somebody kind of loses their legs for a second. But that's fine at heavyweight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I
This
well,
main event. Oh,
I
go
do
ahead.
wanna bring in one thing. Okay, so you were talking about, like, the speed advantage and the size advantage and everything, so, if you were to fight, Pereira, Tom Aspinall is 6'5" with a reach of 78 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Pereira, 6'4" with with a reach of 79 inches. So
Oh.
the height and so really it will just come down to weight, and it'll be I'm now more intrigued by this because it's gonna be a speed versus just devastating knockout power matchup,
Yeah.
you know? So I think it has the workings to be way more dynamic and interesting than a John Jones versus Tom Aspinall fight.
No, the John Jones one is the most. I understand like they're on those win streaks, but like I think seeing Tom Aspinall fight someone of a similar like size, because as much as Alex Pereira is like the same height, like the actual bigness of the man and like
Yeah.
thickness of his body, John Jones is bigger.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's a
Seeing
and
someone seeing someone who has cardio to go the distance, which Alex Pereira does, but also has like insane durability, so that it's going to have to be either like a huge one punch knockout or attritional damage, and like he's gonna have to probably nobody who fights John Jones ever. Right, every fight has been him finishing it, or they go the distance. Right, I mean he's obviously never been finished or never lost. Like you're gonna probably have to take a decision off of John.
Mhm.
Um, so I'd be interested to see that because I want to see him go past like 45 seconds in round one. Yeah. And I also worry like with that speed, maybe he doesn't even need to like throw punches. He just can like shoot the fastest double leg Alex Pereira has ever seen, and then he's on his back. And like we've only seen Tom Aspinall's top game a few times, but we do know that like his most of his life training has been training as a jiu-jitsu practitioner from the top. So I
Yeah.
assume he's just gonna be now. I don't know, but like all evidence points to him being able to like mush Alex Pereira. But
Mhm.
I mean, those are the only fights, right? I don't want to see him against Cyril Gahn or Volkov or the winner of Sergey Spivak versus Marcin Tybura. Like, just pay John Jones more money, pay Stipe Miocic money to step aside, and let's have John versus Tom Aspinall, right? Like
Mhm.
that's the fight. Or if John Jones doesn't want to do that, put Pereira. Okay, here's my question: Pereira Aspinall or Jones Pereira? Which one are you more interested in seeing?
Uh, Jones, or excuse me, Pereira Aspinall.
Pereira Aspinall, not Jones. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because it's weird because Jones has said quite publicly, like if Stipe can't make it to the November fight, he'd want Pereira to be the backup, not Aspinall.
Mm.
But then Aspinall called out Pereira to fight as like the co-main event on that card. Um,
Wait, he
right.
did?
So
I didn't think he mentioned Pereira. I thought he only talked about John Jones.
he had mentioned it not in the post-fight interview, but like in interviews leading up to the fight.
Oh, okay,
That he
okay.
would fight Pereira possibly on like the co-main to John and Stipe as the main.
Oh.
But yeah, yeah, it's what a weird mess at light heavyweight and heavyweight. It
Oh,
is
yeah.
just like these like three guys. It's like just delete the divisions, have them fight, and we'll move on. Yeah. All right. Last one since we've been ranting about all this other stuff. Bilal
Yeah.
Muhammad, Leon Edwards. What do you think?
Okay, two things with this one. One, credit where credit's due. Like,
Hell yeah.
Bilal Muhammad was probably the only person in the world who thought that he was going to win that fight, you know? And he didn't let anything detract him or stats,
Yep.
odds, anything. And he came out there with a pretty good game plan, and stuck to it and like pushed his advantages. The only real time that he had issues was, I think it was in the third round when Leon Edwards reversed and took his back, but just kind of stayed there for like 3 minutes. And at the
Mhm.
very end, when when Leon Edwards got desperate and like was elbowing from guard, which
Mhm.
also, if you're able to do that in the fifth round, I don't know why you didn't
I
try to do that
know.
earlier. This one, again, I feel bad saying this because I want to give. I feel like Bilal Muhammad has been overlooked his entire fight career, and I'm
Mhm.
about to do it again because kind of like how you were saying, a lot of these fights were just, it wasn't necessarily the person like winning the fight by dictating what happened, like imposing their will or their strategy. It looked like Leon Edwards was like totally caught off guard and self imploded as a result of that, which we have said Leon Edwards has a tendency to do, but it just instead of happening in after banking 2 or 3 rounds, it happened in round 1. And it's almost like, oh, this happened early, and it just created the snowball effect that just continued to happen
Yeah.
because weird decisions, like also like it was almost like Leon Edwards was totally like either caught off guard that this could happen to him, or like just didn't know what to do being on the receiving end, like massive double legs, where it wasn't just
Mhm.
like being thrown to like pulled down to the ground. It was like being lifted over Bilal Muhammad's head and then slammed to the ground.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah, he got
don't
spiked on his head that one
he
time.
did he, on that one time, yeah, which I thought technically is illegal now.
It has to be like you're intentionally spiking someone, but since he lifted
Okay,
him and his body was turning in the air, like, it wasn't
got
right.
it.
Because like, he coulda tucked his neck and tried to roll, but he just, like, didn't. He was like,
Yeah,
I'll keep my neck as tight and straight as possible."
but yeah, and it was like eh, who has done that to Leon Edwards before,
Yeah.
and like it was, and also like something really weird happened, like Bilal Muhammad was better in the stand-up exchanges, and for some reason Leon Edwards had this weird guard that like
Oh, yeah.
he brought his arms like this weird L where he was like trying to block, and like but against a smaller, like he couldn't see what was coming, so Bilal Muhammad, being the shorter fighter, could have just attacked the lower body or do exactly what he did and come with just an uppercut that was like, oh, here's a big hole in your guard,
Yeah.
and let me just put it in a place where you can't see it
Yeah.
coming, and pop. It was like, wait, but why? Like again, I should be focused on Bilal Muhammad being like, "Hey, I found the hole. Here it is, and I'm exploiting it." But I
Yeah.
can't help but think like, why did you think that was a good guard? And like kept doing it against the
Yeah.
smaller fighter. It was just really, and we kind of criticized Leon Edwards for this earlier, like his path to victory, or like it when he first beat Kamaru Usman, I don't like to say like he got lucky, because I don't believe in luck in fighting like this. Like you train certain things and you seize the opening and you fill the opening. That's how you get your win, or your big knockout.
Yeah.
But like I I was kind of like, okay, if they match up with Kamaru, if he matches up with Kamaru Usman again, like he'll win. Like Kamaru Usman will win. Like this was, again, not a fluke, but he'll 9 times out of 10 Kamaru Usman will win.
Yeah.
Then he
Le
lost. Leon
Yeah.
Edwards, yeah. So then I was like, huh, okay, maybe Leon Edwards actually is the real deal. Maybe I was like, I couldn't see past it or whatever there.
Mhm.
But then it's like seeing this fight now is kind of like, well, okay, maybe I was right then initially with my assessment of Leon Edwards, because you let Bilal Muhammad totally like outwork and destroy you in this.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I'm kind of right back to my initial feeling with Leon Edwards of like, he's good, but maybe not the champion fighter that I thought he actually was.
Yeah, I
Which
think
again,
that
it should be like I'm more hyped for Bilal Muhammad, but I'm not, because I also feel like, hey, if Bilal Muhammad's first title defense is against like Shavkat Rakhmonov,
oh, he's
it's gonna
done.
be it's gonna be a short night. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, Rachmanov is gonna tear him to pieces, I feel like. But maybe I'll eat my words. I thought King Green was gonna tear Paddy Pimblett to pieces. No, I think right. We have to give Bilal Muhammad his flowers. He deserves all of them, just
He
like you
does.
said. And I think the thing that you've touched on everything, like when we were talking about what is the match, what does this matchup look like, and like what things do we know about Leon Edwards? It's like he has mental lapses. He hates pocket fighting, right? Like standing in the pocket and trading punches. He really likes being really long and far away and throwing the head kick or those long punches. And the issue was in their first fight, he would either press forward into Bilal Muhammad, but keep it at that range. He controlled distance super well. And anytime Bilal Muhammad tried to press forward so that he could be in punching range, uh, Leon Edwards would like skate away and circle away with good footwork. He did not do
Mhm.
that at all. And so Bilal Muhammad knew, if I can just, like we said, I think we even said the phrase like, do we trust Bilal Muhammad to pressure in the pocket for 25 minutes? And we're
Yeah.
like, that's hard to imagine. He fucking did it, right?
Yeah.
He knew
Yeah.
exactly that was the game plan. I have to do that. He like again. We should repeat what we said last week. Bilal Muhammad is a winner, right? Like he regardless of how fun his fights are to watch or how like pretty they are to watch or like whatever mental lapses his opponents have, he is a winner. He will stick to the game plan, and it's usually a very good game plan. And he knew I have to come in. I can't like cage wrestle with this guy and try to get trips. I have to power double leg this dude, and I have to stay in punching range. I can't let him back me up or circle away so that he can kick. And that's exactly what he did, right? So this was like an A-level performance against Bilal Muhammad. But like you said, the issue is this was a D performance by Leon. This was, I think because you're exactly right. He lost 4 minutes and 59 seconds, or he lost what is that? 24 minutes and 59 seconds of that second Kamaru Usman fight, right? Until that head kick, he lost the entirety of that fight. And he came out afterwards, and it was Salt Lake City. It was like my cardio, like it felt really weird being at elevation, and I didn't like it. But it's like, but that doesn't explain why you lost the first 5 seconds of that fight when you're fresh, right? Like it's super weird. And then the next fight, when it's at C level, he's like, "Oh, I felt fine. See, I told you it was all elevation." Which it still didn't fully explain it, but I went, "Oh, okay, maybe he did like he just felt like the cardio was like just not there, and so he didn't like it." But having it here, his first thing was immediately, "Oh, the time change was different." And that felt weird. He feels kind of like like there are some musicians who apparently put on like amazing live shows and live performances, but then like every third performance they do like one song on their set and they're like, "I'm tired, I don't want to do this," and then they just leave and there's like it's like a 5-minute show. That he kind of feels like that. It's like if everything is not exactly the way he likes it, he gets so in his own head about it that he's like, "I just can't perform." Right? Like the time changes off. I don't like fighting at elevation. This is all just it's just too weird. Um he and we see those mental lapses in rounds, but like this was from minute 1, he came out and just looked sleepy. Like he just was like, "I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. This is stupid." And you're like, you like you said, not to make it about like, well, real champions, whatever, but there are people in this division. This is a sport where somebody will come out, and Bilal Muhammad, he fought at the same time, and he was just like, "Fuck it, I'm sticking to my game plan, and I'm giving 100% effort every second of this fight." And he won. And that's what happens, right? Uh, it was baffling, yeah, because they would engage, and I was like, "All right, now Leon, you're gonna circle away, right?" And he's like, "I'm gonna put up this weird guard. Why? Why are you doing that?" You know? And then he'd get backed up to the cage, and the second he got backed up to the cage in the first round, look at it. He like looks up to see the time. And it's like, "Bro, we're like not even 30 seconds into this fucking fight. Like, what are you doing looking up at the time already?" He just seems so checked out the whole time. So again, it's one of those things where like, let's say we had a B or an A level Leon come in. I would have loved to have seen what this fight would have looked like because Bilal definitely had the exact right game plan and the exact like techniques, and like he had drilled everything and had Leon scouted so well that like perfect. This would have been great to see what their A games against each other would have looked like. But instead we got an A versus like D game, and it was like good for Bilal, right? And that's what a champion does. Is Bilal has never like had an off night, or when he does, he doesn't matter. He still like pushes through and sticks to the game plan. Whereas Leon has an off night, if only for a minute, every fight. Every fight he seems to have an off night, right? Like he let Colby Covington almost take a round from him. He got almost knocked out by Nate Diaz. Like there's always a moment where he just goes like, "Well, I don't want to do this anymore." We're in the middle of a fight. But yeah, excited for Bilal. I don't think there should be an immediate rematch. Leon got thoroughly thrashed.
Yeah.
Shavkat Rakhmonov, I think, will do terrible, nasty, despicable things to Bilal, but I'll be interested to see because I'm sure he'll scout him well, right? And hey, I thought Bilal had no chance in this fight, and he absolutely came through. What do you think is next for Leon Edwards? How would you match him up next?
Who would I put him against? Let's see. I don't know. That's I mean, you could really put him up against anyone in the division now. Like, who do you say Jack Del Madalito's fighting next?
He isn't. I think he ripped his rotator cuff or something, so he's like out for quite a while.
Okay, yeah. So not him. All right, put him against Ian Gary.
I know, that's kind of the fight to make, I feel like, right?
Yeah, yeah. You have a new ascendant coming up. You have a former champion. Let's see.
Yeah, and yeah, I'd be very interested in that fight. Right, A level Leon, I think beats him, but
Yeah.
D level Leon could lose to anyone. It turns out, right? Like he just, yeah, it was really surprising. And then it did seem like Leon got really obsessed with like once he takes me down or he gets me to a position, I'm really gonna get a reversal
Yes.
because, like you said, when he reversed Bilal and then immediately got into guard and dropped that like amazing elbow. I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit, where has this been the whole night?
Right.
And then he
Right.
just like stopped, right? But you could tell. And then when he was got the reversal to get the back, that was like one explosive move off of the cage into a takedown, right into back take. And it seemed like it was like that's all you were thinking about this whole fight, like these first 3 rounds, was that you were gonna do that. So much so that you just like let the 3 rounds slip by you.
Yeah.
Yeah, not great. Alrighty. So yeah, Leon Edwards, infected with donkey brains. Turns out he's a champion with donkey brains, and it's upsetting to see. Um, this was the night of donkey brain fighting. Uh, between the UFC's choice to put it on late at night, Baron Green shooting for a takedown, all kinds of stuff. It was yeah, kind of a weird night of fights. And then I have to call out. Sorry, right? I know we got to go. Canelo Alvarez. We were talking about him
Oh,
fighting
yeah.
Benavidez or moving up in weight or doing fucking anything. And then he's like, no, I'm going to fight Edgar Berlanga. And at this point, I'm like, uh-oh, Canelo's got donkey brains. This is not good. You can't be defending fighting Edgar Berlanga, a fight no one on earth asked to see. And you're like, no. And we're going to go up against UFC Noche at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing, Canelo? Now, Canelo gets contractual dollars per fight. So he's like, fine, I'll just take whatever scrub I want. But he's really entering this territory of like, I'm just gonna fight influencers now. So you know what? Fuck it. He might fight Jake Paul after Jake Paul beats Mike Tyson. Like that
Yeah.
that actually might be the fight that happens. And who knows? I don't think Canelo would lose. Canelo's too like dedicated to the actual craft of boxing. But
Yeah.
like again, another donkey brain move that I learned about this weekend that I was just like, I'm furious. I'm so angry by all this. This is like, well, what are you doing? Yeah.
But it's
Well,
okay. You'll have something to calm yourself and enjoy in a nice, relaxing evening
Ugh.
watching Conor McGregor and Jake Gyllenhaal in Roadhouse.
Roadhouse. Yes, I will be watching that, and we
I
will.
honestly, this one, I was like, you know what? I'm all right. If I lose, I'll get to watch this, and if I win, I get to hear Stuart rant about it now. So I
Oh
was in a
man,
win-win here.
I was, and I felt so close. I like Paddy Pimblett fight. I was so confident in it, and then he gets choked out, and I'm like, ugh. Well, at least Curtis Blades will beat Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall comes out. I'm like, wow, he's really fast compared to Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades catches him with a beautiful 1-2, and it didn't seem like Tom Aspinall's brain even registered he got punched. And I was like, uh-oh, that's not good. That's not good, Curtis Blades. You got to be able to hit a little bit harder than that. Golly, yeah. All
Yeah.
right, well, I'll watch that thing. And then we have another fight card coming up this week. A pretty
Yeah.
decent one, actually. We've got this is the Umar Nurmagomedov versus Corey Sandhagen, which is a good fight. We don't have well, it sounds like also Nick Diaz isn't going to fight this year again. They like booked
Oh,
him, and then now he's like, no, I actually don't want to fight. Um,
okay.
I wish they would just say like he's not fighting anymore, and we just don't have to like worry about it. But not going to be the case. But yeah, a decent fight. They snuck Shara Magomedov on this
I was
card.
gonna say, like, when did that happen?
Yeah, and like, who cares? After watching his fight, it's like he's not actually that good. I don't care, and he's fighting Mikhail Olashechik, who's the
Yeah.
guy who just lost to Kevin Holland. So I'm like, what a crappy fight. But Marlon Vera, Davison Figueiredo, that's a good
Sure.
one.
Yeah.
We've got Mackenzie Dern, Lupe Godinez. That should be entertaining. Uh, Elvis or Elves Brenner, Yoel Alvarez. That's a good fight. And then have you seen Guram Kutitaladze fight? It's on the prelims.
No.
He is phenomenal. He's very,
Okay.
very good. Watch him. He is a Georgian kickboxer, a very, very good kickboxer. And yeah, he gets injured constantly, so he's rarely in fights. But when he does fight, very good. And then we have like possibly the saddest fight. Well, no, Tony Ferguson and Paddy Pimblett was the saddest fight. But Tony Ferguson, Michael Chiesa, just a sad fight. But a lot of stuff to talk about.
Okay. Are we making picks for this weekend as well?
Sure. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Shit. Okay.
Let's do. You can't pick the Tony Ferguson Michael Chiesa fight.
Okay.
You can't pick that. But let's do 1, 2, 3. Let's do 4. Let's just do 4 fights.
4 fights. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do the main event and then what other ever 3 you want to do.
All right.
Because who cares about like the Shara fight? Who really actually cares about Mackenzie Dern? So many of these feel kind of like, unless though I felt so confident in my picks this week, and then everything turned into donkey brain land. So I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, all right, everyone. This has been 2 Fight Fans podcast. I'm just a furious fight fan, Stuart. Yeah. It's well, hopefully I'll be back. Man, Baron Green, man, driving me. All right.
Bye bye.